Okay guys, welcome back to class. This is week 3, day 3. We're gonna start working with asynchronous functions. Has anyone here had the opportunity to look at what asynchronous functions are? Anyone have any idea? Okay, that's cool. That's what we're here to learn. Asynchronous functions, oops, why is this not rolling? Well, first off, are you done with the to-do? We can work on this more, but we can always make it more complicated, okay guys? Yeah, you guys have shown what I've shown you, how you can make it more impressive, right? You guys seen that, right? So, we can always add that later on in class, towards the end of class, when you guys are working on your final projects. We're gonna be here. You guys just ask questions, whatever one you guys want to learn. Our jobs, we're gonna help you build anything you can imagine on your final projects. So before that, we should look at maps and arrays as a review. The key concepts that we gotta remember are objects have keys and values. They say map right here. What it's trying to say is we have something we can look at, right? We can look at this map and we can see that, oh, in this key there's this value. This key, this is this value. And you guys, we're all gonna get better at doing this. We're gonna start seeing expectations of certain data and understanding that there's certain patterns that we have to follow. They're called design patterns. Design patterns. You guys are gonna see that a lot when you guys look at jobs online. People are gonna be like, hey, do you understand this design pattern? Something like that. Let's see if I can find one. Design pattern. Come on, baby. Here it is. So some dude posted a job a minute ago. Design. Oops. Okay. I guess that's the wrong keyword. But just know that's the word is design pattern. It's very common to map through a list of objects and make HTML for all the elements. Remember we did that, right? We did that with our to-dos. Well, we can do that for an infinite number of other things, right? We went to Facebook, for example. We can map over all our messages, right? These aren't even messages. These are conversations. And each conversation will have its own list of messages, right? So for example, I could click the Grab Golang class, and this is a mapping. I'm mapping over every single one of the messages in this chat. And it's going. It just keeps going infinitely, right? But a big takeaway from what we're looking at right now, a big difference between what we're looking at right now and what you guys have done so far is this data is coming from an API, okay? This data is not stored on our machine. This data is stored in a server, a data farm. Data center, my bad. It's stored in a data center. You ever see those big ass rooms that have a fucking shit ton of computers in them and then videos and stuff? This is it right here.
It is a giant building with a lot of power, a lot of cooling, and a lot of computers.
Row upon machines, all working together to provide the services that make Google function.
I love building and operating data centers. I'm Joe Cava, Vice President of Data Centers at Google. I'm responsible for managing the teams globally that design, build, and operate Google's data centers. We're also responsible for the environmental health and safety, sustainability, and carbon offsets for our data centers. This data
blah, blah, blah. They spend a lot of time talking about data centers, right? So the main thing I want you to think about is where is this data stored, right? Where is this data of these messages stored? Where is this data of all Loy's photos stored, right? Where is this? It's not on a computer. It's stored somewhere. It's on a computer somewhere. And you guys do not need to know where it is right now. One day you may need to know, but right now you do not need to know. The only thing you need to know is that you got to figure out a way to get that data, okay? When we get that data, we want to update variables, right? So we're going to move forward and we're going to do that. So these things all work together very closely. They're closely related, right? So a headlight works with, for example, with the car, right? Is a tire and a rim different? Tire versus rim. Even though the rim is something completely different than the tire, They're almost one unit because they need to work together, right? Like a tire that does not have a rim is almost useless. A rim that does not have a tire is also almost useless. But they need each other. And that's kind of what we got to think of with our objects and functions. And today we're going to add another two pieces to the puzzle. We're going to be adding APIs and Async. And for this one right here, I want to have 2 people volunteer, okay? I want to have 2 people volunteer. 2 guys. Let me get 2 guys. Come on. Come on, yeah. Come on, guys. What do you guys? Parsley, come here. Okay, so we're going to be talking about this word right here. I'm trying to demonstrate to you what async is, okay? It's a very, the fundamental principle is this. You guys don't stand on your side. Okay. Face this way. Now stand side by side. Come over here. Okay. And programming, right? So programming takes time. Things have to happen over time, right? So in a regular program, this is what happens. If I need to do something, I tell the one thing to do it. And then once this is done, I move on to the next thing. So I'm going to ask him to go touch the wall, come back, go touch the wall, come back, go touch the wall, come back, 3 times. Possibly the same thing. Come on, 3 times, yeah, so that's good. What you guys just looked at was a demonstration of synchronous programming, right? One thing has to be done before we can move on to the next thing. What we need to figure out how to do is do asynchronous. And now we're about to demonstrate what this is. Can you go touch the wall 3 times again? Can you go touch the wall 3 times again?
So we're doing parallel.
Yeah, so do it asynchronously. So you guys can have seen that when we do things asynchronously, the end time, it still takes some time, right? It still takes some time, but the end time is much shorter. I do not have to wait for code to get done before parser can go. And that's what we got to do, okay? We do not want to block our programs, okay? Thank you for your guys' help. Thank you. That's what asynchronous means here, okay? How can we get multiple things to happen at once? Another asynchronous swimming, okay? You may know this keyword from asynchronous swimming. Oops. Videos where people swim at the same time in like the same pace and shit like that. So today we're going to be building Google News. If we go to Google and then we say, I don't know, world news. What do we see, guys? Huh?
Oh no, it's not working.
Come on, why is this internet not working? It's fucking kidding me. I think it's right here, world news. I think it's called world news. What do we see, guys?
News.
We see news and images and articles and titles. We see hours, we see publications. Let me ask you this question, right? If I came to this website next year, would I see the same thing?
No.
We'd see the same kind of stuff, but we would see different data, right? So the objective that we're gonna try to figure out, right, is how can we build an application that is dynamic, not only in like stuff appearing and disappearing and sorting and etc. How can we build an application that will go and get new data and then put it back and then let us use that every single day, right? So once again, let's look at Facebook. I love Facebook. Facebook is a great example of many different types of applications and many types of behaviors. Every single day I come to my wall, right, I'm going to see different things and it comes through an API. So we got, like, this is almost every single meaningful app in the world is going to call APIs and say, hey, give me some data. Let me do something with this data, etc. This is such a common pattern. All right, let's get back to, yeah, so we're gonna build Google News. Do you have any questions, guys? Come on, ask me questions if you, along the way if you guys have any questions. I like this one. So let's read this one. The girl says, my 3-year-old said she wanted to be an astronaut, and I said she had to study hard, go to college, and learn a lot of science, and take a physical fitness test. And she shrugged and said, that's only like 4 things. So yeah, she's basically a motivational speaker. Why is that important? Because we're just gonna do 4 things today, okay guys? We gotta get the news from somewhere. We gotta get that data into an array of objects. And then we need those objects to somehow magically appear on the screen for our users. Because our users are not developers. They don't know what an array is. They don't know what an object is. They don't know what a key or a value is. What do users like, guys? They like images and buttons and stuff like that. And at the end, our 4th one will be sorting, okay? Now we're gonna introduce another level of complexity. Some of you have also already figured out how to do sorting. I tried to like give you guys a glimpse into like the common things. We're about to become astronauts, guys. We're going to space. Okay, so let's just talk about how can we communicate with our server. We just told you guys it was using an API, right? But specifically, the most common thing you guys are going to see is how we exchange data. Right now, you guys only know one programming language, right? But know that there are many other programming languages. There's Ruby, Python, Objective-C, C#, C++, just an infinite number of programming languages, Go, Visual Basic, etc. But how can these programming languages talk to each other? What do they do? Well, the objective here is to what they do is they translate their own language to something called JavaScript Object Notation, JSON for short. This is the worldwide de facto language for translation, okay? Any data can be represented in JSON. And they look very, very, very close to JavaScript objects. There are a couple different rules. There are a couple different files, to be honest with you. You guys may run into these ones, XML and YAML, and also obviously plain text, but I would say the probability is you guys are gonna be dealing with JSON. Almost every single server uses JSON, right here. Here's a nice joke. Jason Bourne. Yeah. But like I said, it looks exactly like a JavaScript object. You guys have already kind of basically been dealing with it, okay? There are keys, there are values. Okay, so we're just gonna ask, guys, I want you guys to know there are an infinite number of APIs out there. Free API for testing. Here it is, this one right here. It's a whole GitHub repo. There must be thousands of APIs in here. Just anything you can imagine, data for anything. It's crazy. So now we're gonna be specifically looking at news, right? Is it this one? I forgot which API I used, to be honest with you.
How does GitHub make money? Do you know them?
Because once you guys have, they make money from additional services they provide as well as private accounts. So for example, you see that I made my GitHub when I was in college. I had a college, GitHub, and my student membership expired. Now they want me to pay them money. I haven't paid them money yet. But they make, there's just a whole bunch of other team tools that you can use. Team tools, right? Like,
Basically, if a company would use GitHub, they would pay for it.
exactly, yeah. Company uses GitHub. And that's also, right now you guys have only been creating public repositories. When you guys have production code of some app that you're building, you're not gonna want that to be public code that anyone can download. So for private repositories, we pay like $4 a month, $5 a month, something like that. Yep. Okay, so I actually forgot which one we use. So I'm going to look at the previous classes, okay? CD news. There it is. CD news. News API. Okay. Okay, so before we move forward into this one, does anyone have any questions about the to-do app? Because it's the last time we're gonna be touching it for a little while. Any questions, anyone? You didn't do it? What are you talking about? You did it. I saw you do it.
I mean, I did a really basic version of it.
Okay, so this is something I said. A couple of you guys came in late. We got to work on our apps and make them exceptional. I don't know what else to say. By the end of class, when we have our final 2 weeks, you guys will have more time to just vote. Like, you guys gotta help us communicate. Let us know about your feelings. You know, what did you guys not do well? What do you want to do better? You guys saw some of the things that can be done with the to-do app. Some of the impressive things, right? Like more impressive things. We need to make these apps exceptional. Okay, so fine. Yeah, let's just move forward right now. So we're gonna go ahead and start a new project. We're gonna call this one Google News. Okay, what do we have now? We have a new folder here called Google News. So let's go ahead and move into this project. How many files do I have here? None. Let's go ahead and create some. Okay, I touched some files. If I look at how many files I have in here now, I see we have a README, an index, a scripts.js, a styles.css. So let's go ahead and open our code editor and let's just look at them. If I open this up, what should we see, guys? Nothing. So what can we do now? We just Google HTML5 template. Hop over here at site point. This is my favorite one. I copy this right here. Copy, copy, copy. Paste over here. Whoops, that didn't copy. Copy, paste, okay? We also have to fix our paths, right? We have to fix the paths to get to our assets. A CSS file is an asset. A JavaScript file is an asset. An image is also an asset. So now if I open up scripts.js, I don't see anything in the console log, so I want to confirm that we've been able to load this file, right? If we look in our index.html, we add an h1, we say Google News, we save it and refresh, we confirmed that we are in fact working on this project. But I also want to confirm what? I want to confirm that we loaded our scripts.js. So we're just going to console log, hello world from Google News. So I refresh, what do we see here? You see the console log. So we confirm that we've set up our project, we've got some things set up correctly, and we're getting the console log that we want. Okay, so I feel like I've been kind of jumping, not spending too much time on styling. I'm gonna try to make this one more beautiful as we go. So I'm gonna look up.
Oh, is your Google black?
Yes.
Can you change the color of the VS Code?
Yeah, it's my bad. You guys, yeah, I don't know why I have a black one actually. I'm confused right now. I thought on this screen, I know on the other screen I'm supposed to have a black one because I have a plugin. Quite confused. Okay, so what are we doing again? We're looking for Bootstrap CDN. So I'm just gonna look at the ones online, Google. I don't like these ones because they don't have the entire link script. They don't have the entire link. So I'm just gonna get this one. I want this one. I don't want a typo. I don't want to type it again. I just want to copy it and paste it. Okay, I save here. Let's make sure that it worked. Let's jump back over to our app. And we do see that the font changed. Okay, so remember that we're using a free API. Damn, I forgot to do the setup part, okay? Guys, sometimes we have to create accounts, okay? Many APIs that we use, we gotta create an account and get an API key. You guys do not know how to build APIs yet. None of you guys know how to build APIs. But in the very near future, before you guys get done with this class, you will know how to build an API. And that work is worth your time. You know, that work is important, right? So whenever you guys build an API and you make it free to the world for people to use, you guys want something, right? You guys want someone to sign up for an account and then use the API, and you want to be able to track it. Why? Because you want to be able to talk to an investor and get like $100,000 or something like that, I don't know, to keep working on it. So it's okay to create create accounts to help people out. So I'm gonna go do this live right now, I think. And we're going to get an API key. So obviously I went to newsapi.org and I'm just filling out a registration form, right? Please let me in. Okay. Why can't I click this? Okay, I can't click it. And there we go. It was that simple. I filled out one form and I got an API key, right? Now they always have a document, right? An API will always have a document or something you can read to understand how this API works. It is impossible to use an API without understanding how it works. And you guys will see multiple examples of what the API will do, how you call it, etc. This takes practice. And more so, or more importantly, is I want you guys to understand, this is very important, that no API is the same. Every single API is going to look different. There's no other way to consume it other than to look at it and to just study the object. Study the responses that you get right here, okay? So you guys can see they even give you code that you can just copy and paste over. This is amazing. So let's see what we can do here. Let's copy this. Oops. Let's copy it, the JavaScript. Let's go to our scripts and let's define a new function, okay? We're gonna say get news. I paste in and format. Okay.
So why are we doing this function again?
What's the objective of today's lab?
To create cool news?
We're trying to learn how to build an app which will get data from an API so that our app will have different news content every day, right? So we need to write, we're gonna have to write code that does that, right? I want our app, when I go to this app right here, I want to see images that are different every single day. If I come here today, I want to see images that are different than tomorrow. So we need to learn how to call an API. That's the objective of today's lab. So let me close some of these windows, guys, sorry. Just like this screen, right? Just like Facebook. So this function, using this API, is going to call an API for us. I'm gonna copy this over and we're just gonna look at the results and then afterwards we're gonna write it from scratch, okay? So you guys can see here's some magic right here, okay? We console log right here. Let's just see what we get as a response. Yeah. So we defined a function and we just copied in the example, right? We just copied in the example that they gave us right here. So let's just let's call the function and see what happens. So I save it, refresh, and we see something here called a promise. So an important thing to understand about API requests is that they take time, right? If I ask for some data, I'm not gonna have it immediately. Google has to do some thinking. It has to think about what it is I want. Did I say that I only want news from Asia? Do I only want news from Vietnam, etc.? And we need to flag this API request accordingly so that our application understands that it needs to wait for this promise. And you can think of a promise as exactly what it says. It's a promise to give you something. Right now, when you guys see the console log right here, that right there, the response is a promise. We asked for this data, right? But we're sitting around waiting. We don't know when we're gonna have it. It could take 1 second, it could take 5 seconds, it could take 20 seconds. It just depends on so many different things. Where is the user? Is the user on a mobile phone? Is the user on a desktop? Do they have Wi-Fi connection? Are they on 3G? Are they on 2G in Africa, etc.? There's a million different variables that could occur. And there are many different ways to solve this problem, right? But right now, this one right here is actually probably one of the more complicated ways, right? So I'm going to show you a simpler way. Oops. I'm going to define a function const get news equals get news const response is equal to. In order to get the data, we're going to call a function. Fetch is a function. And we have to write our function in a new format called using the special keyword called async. We stick it in front of our fat arrow, okay? So I'm going to copy over this URL that is given to us. We're going to fetch it, and we need to do one more step. We also need to add an await to the front of this right here. Let me clean, I don't like this code right here. I want it to look like this. Okay, there we go. So this is the URL. We want to call this URL, okay? I know this is quite confusing right now. Just trust me, in 5 minutes, it'll be complete and you guys will see some data, okay? So we define a new function. It is a synchronous function. It takes some time. We define a variable, the URL, okay? You can just imagine that this string right here, it just goes inside of this fetch right here, right? The next step is to parse the data. When we get data from an API, it's never ever, or not never ever, it's almost never ever going to be in the format that we need it to be. We need to change it somehow. Okay? So now we're gonna do const JSON data is equal to await response to JSON. Is it JSON? Let's just console.log what we have now. JSON data. So if I go back to our browser and I refresh, what do we have right here? But notice what it is right here. If I remove this await right here, right? And then I console log our response, what are you guys gonna see? You see a promise, right? Promise means the program promises to give us this data in a second, but it doesn't have it yet. Our JavaScript is saying, hey man, I want to give you this, but I don't have this data right now. You need to wait for a second. So we're telling our application like, okay, yeah, that's cool, I get that. We can wait right here. We're gonna wait for this to get done before we continue executing, okay? So watch this. I throw in an await, right? I save it, and what's our response going to be now? This is going to be the response that has not been parsed. We need to parse our response, right? So just think about this, okay? Response, where does this come from? At first, it takes the form on the right here, fetch. It calls a URL, and then we're stuck for a second. We're waiting for this task to get done, right? But then you can think of the background, what I demonstrated a second ago. Our application can do other things. We say, okay, when this is done, I'm going to continue working, but I want to move on to the next step. Remember, we asked Kung to go first, and then we moved on to doing other shit, right? So the application, the JavaScript application will wait on this line, and then, or like one part of the application will wait, the other part will continue going, okay? So if we look at response now, we see that we do have a not promise. This is now actually data. Okay, but this is not that useful. We don't want the actual non-parsed response. We just want the response. That's all we want. So we're gonna comment this one out. We're going to use .json, which is what, guys? What is .json?
Function.
It's a function call. We're calling a function on our response object, right? So remember, response right here is what? It's an object, and it has a function attached to it. See that right there? So inside of our response, this is the response right now. We just console log this on line 7. In it, we can call a JSON function. This will just take the data and turn it into what we need it to be. I promise you, okay? So let's go ahead and uncomment lines 8 and 9. And someone give me a color. Red, Superman, pink, Rhino, okay? I'm gonna save it. Refresh, we have red, Superman, pink, Rhino. But what is this now? Is the data we need, okay? This is the data that we need to build.
So if we don't do that, what is it waiting for?
It's waiting for it to process, right? Because remember a second ago, imagine when our application loads, right? I say, hey Kung, I need some data, go get me some data. So you start going getting some data, right? But then I need to also move forward and say, hey, can we go ahead and draw something on the screen? Let's go ahead and draw the H1 to the screen. So like you went and got data, and then I told Parsa to go ahead and draw Google News to the screen. And then the promise is saying, okay, whenever Kung is done getting the data, you can continue executing. And what is continue executing? It means right now on line 6, I wait for a second. I'm waiting for you to give me that data. And then after that, we move forward. We need to do this 2 times. This is always the pattern. It's always 2 times. First, you await the fetch, right? You await the fetch, and then you await the response. Because response right here is going to take a second. So you cannot run line 8 without waiting. We have to wait right here. The program just waits for a little bit, and then afterwards it continues moving forward. So watch, remember now, watch this. Red Superman, pink rhino. What do I have right here? Red Superman, pink rhino, right? And this is the data. So imagine we go ahead and delete a wait right here. We save it, we refresh, it's going to complain, okay? It's going to complain. It needs to, we need to throw in these keywords. It has to do this. I don't know why someone said this. This is just how the world works. So we add the await, we save, refresh, and we can see that our data is here. When I say it takes a second, guys, I'm talking about it takes like 20 milliseconds. Something ridiculously small like that, but we still have to program for it. Someone help me guess. Who here wants to take a guess on how many API requests Facebook takes whenever you load? Someone, come on. Yeah, I'm actually surprised. Yeah, but that's closer, but it's not close. I'm surprised at how close you were. When you guys load Facebook, right? If you look at your network tab, you can see how many requests are firing right down here. So let's go ahead and refresh. Almost, yeah, it's between 600 and 700 requests. It depends. It depends on like a lot of things, right? So it keeps going. So when you load this page, just know that this step right here happens 500 times. Okay, so like your computer's doing a lot of work for you all at once behind the scenes, and you're not thinking about it, right? And obviously, one developer did not write all these requests, but you just know that like in order to build a dynamic website that has a whole bunch of different data and etc., we need to know how to do this very well. And that being said, this is how we do it. Okay, we got to define a function. I can't remember how to do this. Function async es file. I remember how to do this without making it ES6. Oh, okay, I can't do that. All right, so let's do it the way that you guys are probably used to. Get news. Okay. Just copy, paste. I'm sorry, that was really quick. Does it look the same, guys? Right? I saved this. All we gotta do is stick async at the beginning. Okay? We have to stick async at the beginning. We have to stick await before our fetch call. Fetch is going to take an argument, which is a string. The string is going to be a URL, right? This is an argument right here. This URL is an argument, right? We just stick it in there. I could also do this. Okay? So we're fetching data from what? From a specific URL. This URL contains the data that we want. Okay? Later on, we're going to be doing this with other URLs. We're going to do this with the movie URL, a coder school URL, your own URLs. And what is sitting behind the URL? Exactly what it is, the APIs. Okay, it's the thing that generates all this data. And you guys don't know how to build those yet, but don't worry, we're going to be doing that soon. Okay, so do you have any questions? Yes.
What's the difference between the async function you just wrote and the one on the website from the API?
It's the old school ways of doing it. But this right here, this fetch.then is the much more difficult way to do this, to be honest with you. I'll show you how I've done it. I've done this in the past. It's more difficult to reason about, if you ask me, and it's the older way of doing it. The way that I just showed you is the preferred way. Oops, my bad. So let's look at a project that I did, right? So let's say this code right here, .then. This also works. You do not need to use the keyword async. You do not need to use the keyword await. But you're going to find yourself in a situation called callback hell. That's what professional did. Callback hell. Basically, it means that like we have a bunch of functions sit inside of a function, and it gets super duper long and difficult to read about. Here's an example. Right there. Right? It's much more difficult to reason about. Right now, I don't even want to show it to you guys because I don't want you guys to do that later, right now. And I'll show you one later. But basically, we don't want to nest our code way too much. Okay? We save a table, then we save a chair, then we save a couch, and then we save chair 2, and then blah, 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 blah. This goes on forever. It's very difficult to reason about. So this one, I don't want you guys writing code like this. New request. I want you to write code like this. Use the async keyword. Use await twice. You're going to be exactly like this. Okay? So I'm going to give it to you guys. Okay, so that being said, now we have our data. Let's move forward. I want you guys to be writing code more than listening to me. We have our data. Okay, we just pretend we have our data. What can we do now?
Display.
Yeah, we can just draw it on the screen. So let's go ahead and update our index. So we're gonna stick in a UL. We'll give it an ID. We'll say news list, right? We'll save it. And then what do we want to do here on line 15, guys? When we get our data, what should we do? Say again?
Document element by ID.
Yes. Okay, so we can do something like, well, I mean, let's think about our data for a second. What do we want to do at a higher level? Before we do the document I get by ID. Do we have, how many articles do we have here?
10.
Right? So how many times, like, at a higher level, what are we trying to build? Come on, guys, I want you guys thinking. What are we doing here? I want you to say, like, the application, what is the end goal of the application? Feng just suggested that we do document.getElement by ID, which is a good idea, right? We are going to do that for sure, right? But the end goal of the application is to draw a bunch of things on the screen. So from a programming perspective, what is an approach, a design pattern that we could take? Yeah, we want a list. We want to take all the data we have and just draw it on the screen, right? So we could do it one at a time for multiple times, but we want to just map over our data. Over every single article we have, we want to draw something on the screen, right? So we're gonna do JSON data dot, what's our data, guys? JSON data is an object. Inside of this object, how many keys do we have? We have 3, right? If I were to copy total results right here, and then paste, and then console.log this, what are we gonna see? Refresh, 10. But we don't care about how many articles there are right now, right? What do we care about?
Articles.
Exactly. Now I'm just gonna say .articles, refresh. There we go. What's our articles? What data type is this, guys?
Object.
Yes, but it's in fact a array. So we can do JSON data.articles.map, and what's going to be inside of this? A callback. Okay, and what do we want to do with our callbacks? We want to capture the element, right? So right now, let's just go ahead and console log article. Okay, we save it, and now what do you have? What are these objects? What do they represent? Each one of these objects is a different article, a different article. Okay, so let's start small. For every single article, let's do what? Document.getElement by ID. What is it? News list. Okay. Fuck. How do I add to the end of it? I always forget this. Add to HTML. I know, but I want to do the one that you can just stick in, you stick in HTML. Okay, let's try that one, fine. My bad, maybe I'm wrong. We'll do article dot title. Okay, so we save it, refresh. I did something wrong. Pin child cannot be found. So something was null here. We save, refresh. Type error. My script's on line 20. A pin child is not working, right? So what's it complaining about? It's saying, oh, the parameter of 1 is not of type node, right? So we can tell that we use this incorrectly.
So you have to create a node first.
I know, yes. I'm just gonna copy this one right here. Okay, I'm gonna copy the whole thing, guys. I'm gonna paste it below. Right? And how can we change this to make it work? We paste this in here. We will replace the values from the example that we had. Okay? I make this an H1. I'm gonna change line 23 to news list. We're gonna save, we're gonna refresh and see what happens. Okay, so that seems to have worked. Something worked. So we got all the titles right here on the screen. Here's a pro tip. I recommend you guys every single time you guys get some data from an API, right? Look at the data for forever. Never ever comment it out, okay? So what are we looking at here, guys? What are we looking at each time? Yeah, we're confusing ourselves by deleting this. So I want you to just console log an individual object. I'm gonna look at my JSON data. I wanna look at the articles, and I wanna look at the first one. I always want to be able to see this in my console, okay? So now, how does that help me? We have access to the object. We can now see what keys it has. If we're going to be drawing articles on the screen, we need to know what keys are there. There is no other solution. Like, we cannot guess it. So I'm gonna leave the first one there. So we have the titles now. What else would be useful to have? Yes, we can use a date. So we can do, this kind of sucks, right? This way right here is kind of difficult to read about. So I'm gonna define a new function. I'm gonna say, hey function, we're gonna say render article, okay? And this render article, what's it gonna take? It's gonna take a single article, okay? And then we're gonna return a long ass string. That's all this is. And it's gonna have an H1. No, my bad, let's make this an li. Inside of this is gonna be what? An H1. And then below that it's gonna be a P. And what's gonna go inside of here, guys?
Title.
Yes. We're gonna stick in a title. We're gonna stick in article dot what? Thank God we had this open so that we can look at it, right? Article dot title, right? Then we're gonna look at what next? Article dot content. Okay, right? So what's the next step here? I'm just gonna replace all this right now. I'm sorry, guys. I want to just have this function clean up the code. This is confusing for me. So we're just gonna pass this function. We're gonna pass this function to our JSON articles.map, and we're just gonna get what are we gonna get, guys? Remember what we got yesterday? Remember the to-dos? What did we get yesterday? All right, let's review. Once we map over it, calling the function render article on each article in our array of articles, what's gonna be here? We're gonna have an array of strings, right? Is this not an array of strings? Right? So what can we do now? We need to stick it on our HTML news list. We save it, right? Dot inner HTML is equal to go.join. We want to take that array and we want to form that array of strings. We want to make one long ass string, and then we want to stick that string inside of our HTML. So we save it. We're starting to have something, right? We got some titles. We've got some contents. What would be useful now?
Oh, can you click on them? No, you can't.
No, we can't. But can we figure out how to do that? I hope we can. We figured out how to do this yesterday, right? Exactly. So what is the next thing we should have?
Image.
Yeah, there's a million things we could build, okay? Let's just do images right now. Okay, I'm gonna Google images because I don't remember how to do this. Images, HTML. Truth is, I don't remember how to do it. Actually, I'm joking, guys, okay? I forgot I was told that I joke too much. But yes, I do know how to do it, but I don't want to typo. I don't want to typo, and to be honest with you, I don't even want to think about it. I want someone else to do the thinking for me. So I'm gonna paste this in here. So now how can we replace this now, guys? What is it? What key is it in? So we save it. Now if you look at our news, damn, it's kind of big, right? So what can we do now, guys? We got some style, right? Height is, I don't know, 400 pixels. Width is what? 50% of the screen? I don't know. So we save. That looks kind of better, right? Right, kind of? No? 200? What, did I not save this? Save. 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 Is this working? Body. Say again?
I mean, do we need to class the
No. Well, so this is the image tag. I'm trying to target the image tag right now. So let's do a class. Fine, we'll do a class. Let's see if this works. Say class is equal to image. Images are one of the most tricky things to work with, man. It's fucking confusing, and it gets way worse when you guys have to deal with videos.
Let's do ing, not image. Is it the same?
Oh yeah, shit, fuck. Holy shit. There we go. Thank you. Teamwork. Even the best of us need help sometimes. Okay? Alright, so that looks like crap. So we're going to make it a little bit better. We're going to say it's, I don't know, 250. Okay, so now you guys get the basic idea, okay? Remember, the first step is what, guys? We load this app. What do we need? We need data. We're always dealing with data. This data did not come from me. I did not write down an article. I did not take an image. I did not collect them. We need this from somewhere, and we're going to use the help of the internet. Okay? We're going to use the help of the world, the open source community that is building all these APIs for us to consume. Free API for testing. Okay? You know how much time it takes to write news articles? It takes a lot of time. Trust me, these are people's jobs. Writing news articles all day, taking photos, looking at references, and researching. Okay, this is a lot of work. We don't have time for that. We're devs. Okay, so we need to figure out how to use APIs so that we can use their work. We can leverage their work. Okay, so this is we want to break it up. I want you guys to get this working so far, or get what we have working, and then we'll make it more complicated in the afternoon. Okay. Do you have any other questions, guys? Any questions? Okay, so remember, let me just give you one quick recap, okay? How did we get to where we are right now? How did we get to where we are? Let me go ahead and delete these console logs. Right? How many functions did we write? We have 2 functions, okay? What does the first function do? It's an asynchronous function. It takes some time. We get news with this function, right? What do we need to do to make this function work? We call a globally defined method called fetch. We call a function called fetch. This is a free function we get for free. It gives us back a response. We take that response and we parse it by calling a function called JSON. Okay? This function is attached to the response object. We store that in a variable, we bookmark it, and then what do we do with this variable? We look at this JSON data object, right? JSON data object. We look at a specific key, articles. And inside this articles is what? Its value is an array. That array, we map over it. And then we give it another function that we defined. At the end of the day, so far on line 4, at this point, news HTML is an array of strings. So that we only need to run this line exactly one time. My objective here is I want to run this line one time only so that my code looks better. We're going to take that array and we're simply going to join it to be one string. And then we're going to stick it into the HTML. Okay, that's the high level overview. Yes.
On line 5,
Yes.
when do we, I mean line 4,
Uh-huh.
when do we pass article into
When do we pass article?
the article argument into the function?
So
Actually, you passing it.
because this is a callback, right? Because this is a callback, it's smart enough to just do it for you. I could just do it like this. This is exactly the same thing. I could do this one right here.
Yeah, it's make easier to understand.
Do you want to do this one? Watch, okay, let's just say this one. Let's say this one, we refresh. Okay, that works. Right? Okay, so yeah, that's cool. If I comment this out,
Okay, yes.
save it,
You still understand.
it's exactly the same thing. What? My bad. It's exactly the same thing. Line 4 and line 5 behave exactly the same. God damn it. Okay? But the thing is like once you get better, you're just gonna know it. It's a callback. It's always gonna be past that argument. It's always gonna be past 3 arguments actually. What's the second argument that's gonna be passed?
Index.
Yes.
And the third.
It's gonna be the entire array. You guys don't even need to know that. I've been programming for 5 years, never used that one. Okay?
But if I pass a different article in, is it a case when I pass a different article in?
No, remember the map is always to just look at all of them, right? You almost always need to look at all of them to do something else, right? Because remember yesterday, what was one of the features we implemented? All to-dos, done to-dos, not done to-dos. So even if you only want certain articles, you need to look at all of them, right? You need to look at all of them and then perform some code on each one of them, and then that will give you something else. So remember, this is exactly the same thing. Line 5, line 4 behave exactly the same way. I save it. Let's see if line 4 works. I save it. I refresh. It works. Comment out line 4. Uncomment line 5. We save it. Refresh. It also works.
Oh, I see. Because you attach it to article and you come up with it already. Okay, got it.
What else could we have done? Whatever. I don't want to get you guys confused. Okay, let's just get this one working. Okay, we've got 19 lines of code. I want to see these 19 lines of code work on every one of you guys' machine.